Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. As always, we've got a ton of news to talk about today. We've got, JJ Redick interviewing with the Lakers. We've got Donovan Mitchell, his future, some free agents to talk about, some coaching updates with the Cavs, the Knicks, their free agency, and of course, the biggest and most important thing, Keith, Adrian Wojnarowski continues to wage a one-man war against the Pacific time zone, and I'm not happy with him. Not at all.
Yeah, you guys are getting these early morning Woj. I don't even know that was like more like a Woj grenade maybe this morning. I don't know if hey, we're back to JJ Redick qualifies as a Woj bomb at
It's a
this
Woj
point.
aftershock.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it's a yeah. I don't know, but yeah, it's yeah. Where do you want to start? Because
I want to start with the Cavs, but I just want to make it clear to everyone that I am tired of being woken up at the early. He's dropping news. At least this one was 6 a.m. Last one was like 3:30 a.m. or something Pacific time. But he's killing me, man. He's killing me. He needs to knock that stuff off and be a little bit more considerate. I've got a bone to pick with Adrian Wojnarowski. But all right, let's get.
I will say one thing on that. I'm feeling it today too. I did not. I think by the time I fell asleep, like the last time I saw on the clock was almost 3 a.m. Here on the East Coast last night. I was wired. I couldn't fall asleep, and so I got some work done, and then was just kind of hanging out a little bit, and finally when I like forced myself to go to bed, and then I was up at I don't know 7 o'clock or whatever it was. So I'm there too, but I'm gonna. I've got a couple errands to run later today, and then I think I'm going to shut down for a little bit and just kind of zone out for just a little bit. Yeah, it was on your hours for a change, but I was just woke up because that's when I woke up. I was not woken up by news, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't even know where we're at this point with that story. Knows? But let's start with Cavs.
Let's start with the more important thing here.
Yeah,
Donovan Mitchell. Expected to sign the Cavs extension. This is big. I mean, big obviously for Cleveland, but it's not even just Donovan Mitchell. Like there's a domino effect here. This may bleed into the Cavs coaching search as well, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. This is a big deal. If this is indeed accurate and Donovan Mitchell is going to sign, I saw it was out there, maybe a 3-year deal with the Cavs. If he's going to stick in Cleveland, that's a huge win for the Cavs because we know the vultures are circling. And if Donovan Mitchell decides, hey, I want out, the trade market will instantly pick up for him. There are 28 teams that are right now waiting and hoping that Donovan Mitchell does not sign an extension with the Cavs. I'm omitting the Utah Jazz for reasons. But Donovan Mitchell expected to sign that extension that could instantly thrust Darius Garland onto the trade market or at least yield a request to be traded from him. What does that mean for Jarrett Allen, if anything? And then the coaching search as well. Keith, there's so much tied to this. That's why I wanted to start with this story today.
Yeah, no, it's a great place to start today. It's kind of one of the bigger things that's out there. And what's important for, I think, everybody to remember, a little bit different with the Donovan Mitchell thing, but the minute the finals ends, teams can start negotiating with their own players as far as contract talks and the like. That's a new rule in the CBA. This is the first time that's happened. So that really applies to free agents more than it does extensions. Mitchell wouldn't be able to extend until July 1st because he's going to want to add years. I saw the report that said he may only want to do a 3-year deal. My guess is that would probably be a 3+1, and he'd get that player option. Just that way you lock in the most years and dollars you can, knowing he'll probably opt out after 3 years if his career is continuing to be where it's at, and that'd be about $208 million. Reminder, he's not eligible for what folks like to call the supermax, the 35%, because he was not acquired while he was on his rookie scale deal. So you have to either be drafted by the team or acquired while you're on a rookie scale deal to sign one of those designated player extensions. So we're at a point with Mitchell where let's see, what happens. But I think you're right with that part is interesting. I personally think he will extend, but then what dominoes does that trigger? Now, in that same reporting, this was from our buddy Jake Fisher over at Yahoo.
Before we move to like the Darius Garland novel, I just functionally have a question here. If so, Donovan, so now he can talk with the Cavs as soon as the finals end. Can he come to terms on an agreement, or does that still have to wait until after the moratorium and all that?
That one's a little more like uncertain because
Okay.
it's an extension. It's not a free agent negotiation. I think it's pretty clearly laid out that it's you can negotiate with your own free agents, but extensions really you can have those conversations about whatever you want with a player
Sure.
saying, "Hey, let's kind of get there," because there's no tampering involved there because they're your own players. So I think it's more likely what we may see. Let's just say the finals ends Friday, we may start hearing over the weekend that some free agents are reaching agreements with their teams. I don't think
Oh,
there's anything to bump that out. And I don't think it'd be like an overwhelming amount. I think it would more be like I'll use Pascal Siakam as an example, like the more no-brainer re-signings. We may hear, hey, they've negotiated now, and we know how quickly these things come together because let's be honest, they've already negotiated already. But we may start to get some of those leaks for teams with re-signing their own guys. We may already start to hear some of that, which is
that's
roughly
interesting.
what about a 2 week jump on things compared to where we're normally at. So we could get that. I don't know how that's going to play out. This is all brand
Yeah.
new, so that's all speculation. But we could get that kind of stuff. But for Mitchell, it's an extension, so I think that one will work a little bit differently.
That'll be really interesting because, and I haven't put enough thought into this, but my initial thought is, okay, if teams are negotiating with their own free agents, that could take a few of the fireworks away for the official start of free agency.
Yep.
But I also wonder if it'll be a little bit telling if we get boom, 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 say 3, 4 free agents agree to terms with their teams. Obviously, they can't officially sign it yet, but they come to a verbal agreement. And for the guys who don't do that, that'll be, I think maybe that's a sign that those players are truly available at their and then probably gone. That'll be an interesting dynamic to watch too. How does the league respond to the guys who don't come to terms, and how is that looked upon? Is that then a sign that this player is truly going to hit the market, or that team is cutting ties, or whatever?
Yeah, it's a new kind of little wrinkle in there to your point, and obviously we'll read probably far too much into things.
No, we never do.
Yeah, we'll overreact to non-news in a very large way because that's kind of what we're conditioned to do. But yeah, it is definitely a new wrinkle because now you kind of have three elements at play here, right? It's free agency. Are we re-signing or are we extending in the case of the players who can do that? So those are kind of the three different options for a lot of the pending free agents. Some of them can only re-sign, other ones can't, can extend. So we'll see what that looks like. But yeah, I think that is going to be a little fun wrinkle here with all this.
All right, so I cut you off there. I
Oh
believe
yeah,
next you were heading towards Darius Garland.
yeah. So reporting previous was that there was a thought out there. This came out immediately upon the Cavs losing to the Celtics in the second round, and I mean immediate. What was it, like 15 minutes after that the article hit?
Yeah,
And this was I don't even know if it was that long. It might have been like more like 2 or 3,
it was
but
the Frank Vogel.
very quickly. Yeah, yeah. The body wasn't even cold yet, as they
Right.
say. So there is a theory in this with Darius Garland of that he was going to ask for a trade if Donovan Mitchell extended. Now that almost seems kind of backwards, right? Because it feels like be like, hey, wait, this guy wants out, then I don't want to be here either. But I think what it is, and everything I've been heard on this, read on this, and been told myself is this is not a I'm unhappy in Cleveland, I don't like Donovan Mitchell situation. It's not those things. It is more of a I don't think we're ever both going to play to the best of our ability as a backcourt tandem together because Garland is he's a more traditional on-ball point guard than a set the offense, then go float off ball and play that way. So I think there is a situation where maybe that comes up. Now, Jake from Yahoo Sports, Jake Fisher, reported the Cavs have no intention of even really listening to offers or definitely not trading Garland, Allen, Mitchell, or Mobley. That's who they've kind of identified as their core 4 players, and they're going to move forward with those 4 guys. It's also the middle of June. So
Mhm.
things will change, offers will change, and the like. And all it takes is one mega offer to come your way. But at least from a starting standpoint, the Cavs aren't going in thinking, all right, we've got to move some guys here and make some changes. So that makes it that much more of an interesting spot to watch how they kind of process through the rest of this offseason.
So Keith, looking at, and this is where it's interesting. If Darius Garland had a year left on his contract or something like that, where he's headed towards free agency, or at least has an option year or something, that's where what the Cavs are saying wouldn't quite have as much, teeth to it here. But Darius Garland, 4 years still under contract.
Yeah.
Pretty hefty contract, 36.7, 39.4, 42.1, and then 44.8 million. And then over the next 4 seasons. So that said, though, even if, and I'm not saying this is the case, but if the Cavs said, you know what, Darius Garland wants out, fine. We don't want anything to do with this guy. We want him gone. This still needs to be their public statement. Needs to be, oh no, we are definitely not trading him. We're not interested in that. He's part of our core. Because you're not going to trade him right now anyway. Those talks are going to pick up in the next few weeks. You might as well put forth that front, especially when that news that he's going to request a trade gets out there. You have to push back a little bit and have a little bit of leverage in this situation to say, oh, no, we don't care what he says. We're not trading him. We're not doing that. And then, well, okay, maybe if you really impress us with an offer, maybe we'll consider it. This has to be the standpoint of the Cavs, regardless of what they actually think. I do think there could be very well some truth to this. I'm just saying that no matter what's happening right now behind the scenes, they have to say, no, Darius Garland is our guy. We want to keep him.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think one of the challenges for the Cavs, and if we can focus on it's kind of right smack in the middle of the graphic. For those of you just listening, we're looking at the multi-year view. Let me do a quick shout out to Spot Track. Mm-hmm. We switched the default mode for all of our NBA pages to be the multi-year view. We got a lot of feedback that's what a lot of people wanted. So You said we listened and we did that. So great work by our programmer there to get that done. Scott he's a machine and a wizard and does things that I couldn't even imagine.
That's a great call because that's 100% the first thing I go to is the multi-year view every time I go to Spot Track.
Same thing. Yeah, I'd load the single year and then click on multi-year and load that up instead. So now other sports like NFL, people really focus on the single year because the multi-year is, let's face it, the NFL is monopoly money after the current season. No one knows if it's real or not. So, but anyway, back to this. So if you're watching, you're looking at the 25-26 column there, which is right in the middle. Let's replace Mitchell's $37 million player option with a first-year max deal in 25-26, which would be about 46.5. So let's just call it plus 9.5 million that you're adding there. Then Mobley, I think Mobley's going to get at minimum the 25% of the cap max. I don't see how you come out of this offseason without giving him that. I think you're going to have to extend him at a 25% of the cap max. So that is 30. That projects to be about 30.8 million. So now you're at Mitchell at 46.5, Garland at 39.4. Mobley would be at, what did I just say? I just forgot. 38.8. Then Allen at 20, Strus at 16. That is a really expensive team. There, all of a sudden, you're talking like what we've been mentioning and talking about for months with the Timberwolves, where there was no major trade. There was no, I guess the Mitchell trade was obviously that was a major trade, but there was no $50 million player brought in by trade. There was no monster free agent acquisition or anything like that. It is just one trade and then taking care of your own free agents. That's how you build up like Minnesota did, where you locked into now all of a sudden you're a second apron team well beyond that. And you've only got 7-8 guys on the roster. So that's something to keep an eye on here for Cleveland as well as they go in. They've paid the tax, obviously, many years when LeBron was there. They were deep into the tax, but it's more punitive now to be above those aprons from a roster building. By the time we roll into 25-26, the new tax bans start. So if you're like 15 million over the tax, like it is more punitive than it's ever been. So those are things that we're definitely going to be watching here as we watch this all play out and build out with Cleveland, because a lot of these decisions are not just this year decisions. These are long-term decisions that the Cavs need to make.
I wonder how much, the Cavs are looking at Minnesota right now too and thinking, you know what, last year, a lot of people were saying this team's too expensive. They're going to have to break it up. Karl Anthony Towns is going to have to get traded. Something's going to happen. And then look, you fast forward a year, everything clicks. They make a run to the Western Conference Finals. Now you're looking like you're going to commit to this roster long term. I wonder if the Cavs are looking at this thinking, you know what? This season, this team didn't quite have it. But does that mean that next season that this isn't a group we should still lock into? Because again, you look at the Wolves, and they were the team that a lot of people were saying that about. Could the Cavs be that team next year where they say, hey, you know what? We believe that this group with another year together, just that chemistry, the seasoning, all that, we add a few pieces on around the periphery and everything can work out. I wonder if that's going to push the Cavs, because there's going to be people out there saying, no, you can't pay that much money for this team. This is not a clear contender. They're going to have to make some changes. They're going to have to trade these guys away. I do wonder if the Cavs look at what the Wolves' success and say, you know what, that can be us next year.
I think that's a good point. I think there's another factor too. They're in the East, so it should be slightly easier for them to move forward. I think the top of the East is every bit as strong as the top of the West, because I think Milwaukee will be better next year. I think Philly will be better next year. But there's uncertainty with those two teams. Milwaukee's an older team. They've got some injury-prone guys. The Philly, we don't even know what they're going to do this summer. They've got literally Joel Embiid and a couple non-guarantees on their roster right now, and that's it. So we'll see. Obviously, they'll have Tyrese Maxey, but we don't know what that's going to look like fully in Philly. But Cleveland, Orlando, Indiana, I'm going to include Miami in there. They're kind of always in the mix. If you're Cleveland, you don't want to fall behind that. And then you've obviously got the Knicks as well as one of the better teams in the East, and they're probably not going away. We're going to talk about them in a minute. So I think you have to be very careful, because you don't want to set a tone of, all right, we got good, but we didn't get good enough. Now we're going to start moving guys out because we're really expensive. Because then all of a sudden what you're telling Donovan Mitchell is, hey, extend here, but we may then trade a couple good players. Now, if you could trade Garland and get talent back, Allen and get talent back, well, that's a completely different story, because then you're just rebalancing your roster. So they're definitely going to be a team to keep an eye on this summer, I think, more so than it would seem like just kind of the basics are they going to do a couple extensions and re-sign a couple guys, but because of that, trade opportunities.
All right, let's jump over to the Cavs coach situation while we kind of finish things off here with Cleveland. James Borrego, Mike Honore, and Kenny Atkinson have advanced to in-person interviews with the Cavs. I mean, we've heard at one point it sounded like Kenny Atkinson was the leader. Now it kind of sounds like maybe it's James Borrego. Who knows exactly where this will all finish, but the Cavs making progress here in their coaching search, just as the Lakers are. And we're going to talk about them in just a minute. But you've got three pretty solid candidates, interesting ones here for Cleveland. And it sounds like if Donovan Mitchell is already, on board with signing the extension with the Cavs, you'd have to imagine he's comfortable with the options that they've got here.
Yeah, I imagine he's comfortable, and I imagine those guys are, let's say, slightly more interested in the job, because Mitchell will be there versus just, oh yeah, let's replace one of the better players on the roster. All interesting guys, right? Borrego is known as kind of an offensive guy. One of the things we keep hearing, no matter which candidate is they want some offensive creativity in there. They want somebody who can really take them to the next level there. They feel like they're a pretty good defensive team, and they're not wrong, but they need to be more dynamic offensively. And then I think Mike Honore, working under Chris Finch and with the Timberwolves and the like, a lot of experience working with making too big groups work. He should be able to pull over, hey, here's some of the stuff. I don't want to continue to make them like they're Timberwolves slightly east, but there are a lot of comparison points. You've got the two bigs. You've got a superstar, high-scoring shooting guard there. You've got just good steady hands at the point guard position. So little similarities there with that. So we'll see. And then you've got Kenny Atkinson, obviously a guy who I think got a little bit of a raw deal in Brooklyn, but we'll see. I feel he's going to pop up again as a head coach somewhere. I just don't know when and where.
All right. Keith, let's jump over, because I do agree with you on Kenny Atkinson, and we'll see where things go. Obviously, the Cavs, just like the Lakers, feeling the pressure of the timeline, want to get this done before the draft, of course, but I would expect them to move pretty quickly on these options here.
We're less than 2 weeks out now from the draft.
Here we go. And you've got to get these guys in place so they can at least be a voice in the decision-making process. Not the final say, but a voice in this process. Yep. Woj, the news that he woke us all up with was that JJ Redick is going to formally interview with the Lakers. The Woj versus Shams battle someday will need to be a 30 for 30. It is the equivalent of the Monday Night Wars for wrestling fans. It is fascinating. But now you've got Woj saying JJ Redick is officially interviewing with the Lakers. You've got all this back and forth stuff about, did he interview with them already? Did he not? What's funny is I think they're both wrong. I think both Woj and Shams are wrong. And they're trying to frame it in the way that their version of events is correct, when the truth is actually in the middle. It's the combination of the two things. But regardless, I don't want to go down that whole rabbit hole. The bottom line is JJ Redick is going to interview with the Lakers over the weekend. I think he is back now to being considered the favorite. Obviously, whatever it was that happened between JJ and the whole situation with the Lakers, something did happen. Whatever that was has been smoothed over at this point. JJ is okay, according to Woj, with the Lakers pursuing Hurley. The Lakers are now going to officially meet with JJ. I'm talking about the entire front office, not just Rob Pelinka. I think that's part of where some of the confusion is. But the entire front office is going to meet with JJ Redick over the weekend. And again, the clock's ticking. So I would not be surprised at all, Keith, if this came together very quickly.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Now, one of the things that is out there is that Rob Pelinka and JJ Redick had a long conversation. I saw it referred to some places, other places, I think they put a time on it of like 90 minutes at the draft combine. But JJ Redick, in his current role as analyst, that's not uncommon. You read about the people who are at the draft combine. Zach Lowe talks about this a lot, how that's a great place to have very long conversations with executives, because for a lot of the combine, you're standing there waiting around for them to announce how tall a guy is, or how fast he ran the shuttle run, or the 3-cone drill, and those kind of things. So it's like, all right, yeah, we're watching, but we're not exactly doing brain surgery here. Like we're talking hoops, we're talking all kinds of things. So that might have been some of it. Probably some of it was, hey, let's talk about the job and let me get a feel for where you're kind of at. What are you thinking? And then, and then now the formal process starts. It's kind of funny. A couple of people said, is this ESPN saying the finals is over? Like, wouldn't he? Well, there's nothing going on this weekend, whatever happens in game 4. Yeah. There's no games this weekend. So might as well hop on a plane from Dallas to LA. And then if there's a game 5 and he's still commentating, he'll hop on a plane from LA to Boston, I assume, and that's how it'll go down. So I think it's I think you mentioned, like, a lot of people feel like they're just kind of like, come on, let's go. Like, let's just get this done. I think we're all kind of there with this, and
it's been over a month. So
yeah. And I think with this one too, calling him the front runner or the
they've zeroed in, laser focused.
It feels like they want JJ Redick. It feels like he wants the job. Like, all right, just now it's hammer out the money and maybe a couple roster conversations, and then get this done, and then let's move forward with this next version of the Lakers.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, get it done, get that all sorted out, and then Keith, I'm sure you saw the stuff going around with Dan Hurley too, where he talked about that there wasn't a leverage play with him meeting with the Lakers, and he said there was a number that he would have left for, but he said he doesn't know what that number is, which he's lying, is not correct. No, I mean, I spent a very, very brief amount of time, very brief, I'm talking about less than a year, in a sales job, long time ago, many lifetimes ago. But one of the things that
do the old man voice that you broke out on the Lakers Nation Delirium end of your show last night. We can say that.
Oh, that was fun. That was fun and frightening, but fun. But when you get into stuff like this, everybody has some sort of a number in their head, even if it's not a locked in. I'm definitely dead set. This is exactly how much I need. You've got a ballpark figure. You could tell me, hey, we're going to go shopping for yachts today. I have no idea how much a yacht costs, right? I don't go shopping for yachts. We don't get enough super chats for that, right? But I would already have a number in my head of like, okay, my guess is it's probably going to be about this much or something, right? So that's the case with all these situations. So Was Dan Hurley like, I have to get this much money? Probably not. But did he have a figure in his head? Yeah, I'm sure he probably did. But he also said that he wasn't trying to use the Lakers for leverage or anything like that. No, that was going to happen whether or not that was a goal of his. He was going to gain leverage on the situation. Again, I don't think there was something nefarious going on here, but that was certainly going to be a positive byproduct of his conversations with the Lakers, is more leverage over the UConn situation. We've talked a little bit about that. So there's a lot of negativity coming out about the Lakers, saying they should have come stronger with their offer. I agree. I thought it was a little bit low. It was a good offer, not a crazy offer, not an offer that makes you say, whoa, I can't believe he turned that down. But when it's all said and done, they're probably going to end up right back where they started, which is with JJ Redick, regardless of whether or not there was leverage play or anything else going on.
Yeah, I think there's a couple thoughts that I have on this. Is one, I mean, hey, we were kids when we learned everybody has a price, right? Ted DiBiase,
Sure.
the $1 Million Man, taught us that lesson, right? You embarrass yourself, but you've got a number to do it for. So everybody has a price, and yeah, I mean, he's right. If the Lakers were like, hey, we're going to give you a 25-year $1 billion contract, he'd be the Lakers coach today, and then he'd probably just buy the team. I don't know, but like he'd be, and then give himself a lifetime deal. But like obviously, there's a number you can go to. It's as they always say, right? It's like, oh, would you do this for $1? No. Would you do it for $10 million? Yeah, probably. Okay, so now we're just negotiating, right? Like that's really, it's a joke, but it's rooted in truth. So I don't think the Lakers offer was strong enough. I'm in agreement with you, because you had to entice him to jump from what is probably the best situation in college basketball right now for him. I don't think he necessarily had the conversations with the Lakers with the sole goal of I need more money, because I do believe him, because the minute the Bill Self stuff came out with Kansas and he was going up to like $10 million a year, that was immediately followed before any of the Lakers stuff had come out. Well, what are they going to have to pay Dan Hurley? Like, they're going to have to start paying him. Like, and they're going to have to rip up the deal he just did, which is also extremely common in college basketball. Like, these guys will do a new deal, rip it up a year later, and sign a new one and go from there. So I think everybody just kind of, in the end, it was, all right, you're not going to give me the amount of money that I need to jump. I think the Lakers were probably like, that maybe got to be a little crazy. Like some of the 8-year stuff that was out there floating around, like that's nerve wracking to commit that long to something. But
And I wonder if that was made clear to them, like, hey, this is the number we need, and if you hit this number, then we'll come over. Like, was there a counter offer, any of that? I mean, those obviously it doesn't matter at the point we're at now, but it's interesting, because then it puts it more on the Lakers. Like, hey, the Lakers knew the number and decided not to get there, or did he just keep the number in his head and said, oh, well, you didn't get there, so I'm going to stay with UConn?
Or was the number so ridiculous that the Lakers shouldn't get there?
Yeah.
At which point we should praise them for saying, no, we can't do that. Regardless, if 670 is even close to accurate, then it wasn't enough.
I've been told it is.
So yeah, which it feels about right. Like that feels probably about right where I would feel most comfortable going, right? That's $11 million a year roughly. And okay, I can probably get there for that, for an unproven guy at the NBA level. So now it's moving on. And I get it. JJ Redick probably ultimately benefits some in this too, because now he's coming in saying, hey, so 670 was what you were tossing around. Like maybe it's not quite that, but like I need a little bit more. If it was, let's just say it was $8 million a year, I need $8.5 million a year. Like let's go. So it kind of is what it is. But mostly, if he's your guy, finish this weekend. Do not let it get past this weekend. Just get it done. I want to hear Sunday, Monday morning, JJ Redick and the Lakers are finalizing a deal, or let me rephrase, Sunday or Monday afternoon. For your sake,
please.
Let's hear it's early afternoon, and let's be done with that. So yeah.
Final thing, it is interesting, a shift now. Woj breaking the news about JJ Redick instead of Shams.
Yeah.
Tells you, when you look at in terms of where information is coming from, there's certain people that are talking to Woj, certain people that are talking to Shams, sometimes within the same organization. I'm not even saying that the initial stuff was coming from within the Lakers organization. I don't think it was, but it's just something to keep in mind, how you can kind of get these wires crossed sometimes.
It's going to be our neck, or maybe it's not going to be, but let's just call it what it is too. If it wasn't 3-0, if the Mavericks had won that game last night, maybe this doesn't come out yet.
Sure.
Maybe it is. Hey, we know there's a game 5. He's not going to go meet with them this weekend. They may be counting on, hey, whether or not the series ends Friday or not, the series is functionally over, and we'll figure it out, if we have to. If he's the Lakers coach Sunday afternoon, maybe we don't need him on the broadcast Monday, or maybe we just kind of make it a farewell broadcast and he says what he says, and he'll have to be careful about, I don't know, Derek Jones Jr. is a pending free agent. Like, maybe can't get super into that conversation, but yeah, it's I think we're in a spot where I think that might have influenced things a little bit too on, hey, let's share some time. I think he was meeting with the Lakers no matter what this weekend, but I think let's put this out there from his own ESPN teammate, that may have influenced things a little bit as well.
True. Speaking of the finals, the end is done. We talked about it going in, that essentially the math for the Mavs, from my perspective, needed to be Luka is the best player on the floor. Kyrie can at worst be the third best player on the floor. They haven't had that in any of the 3 games.
Correct.
Luka is catching a lot of flack for his play in last night's game, and rightfully so. He was god awful. I don't think I've seen. If I was a Mavs fan, I'd be very upset right now with Luka and the complete disdain that we saw from him on the defensive side of the ball. I know he's having to do a lot on offense, but it's frustrating for me, not even from a Celtics winning perspective. I know he's an MVP caliber talent, and I'd like to see him get there because I think he can be that good. But some of the complaining's got to stop. The not getting back on defense has got to stop. And how many times did we see it was his turn to rotate? It was his job to come over. It was his job to contest, and he just kind of blew it off. That he will never get there unless that changes. And I thought that last night it was particularly evident. It hasn't been as bad in most of the other games, but that was shocking. And like I said, Mavs fans should be pretty upset with him today.
Yeah, I thought everything Brian Windhorst said, which now has gone very viral.
He pulled no punches.
Yeah,
wow.
He let him have it. I thought he was spot on with it. I thought Luka kind of made it more about himself at points than it was about trying to win the game. And he was making, a lot of arguments complaining. Look, I get it. A lot of NBA players complain. He is by far the no, let me rephrase that. He is not the only one by far. Like that's a long list of guys there. One of the guys on the team I root for, Jason Tatum, complained a lot. One of the things he's cut out this year, which has helped him, he hasn't complained as much. He's more, he'll say his thing, but he says his piece while he gets back. Luka we've both seen it. There's times where he will get the ball, completely stop play, hold it just to yell at the referee, and then dribble up the court or whatever. And in this game, it was such a silly play. We can argue block or charge or whatever else. I personally do think it was a block. I think it was really close, but I think he threw that right leg out there on his 6th foul. But you can't do that when you have 5 fouls.
Yeah, you can't take the chance, regardless of whether the call was right. You can't do that especially if you're Luka.
Yeah. Yep.
And all these people, Derek Jones Jr. or something, okay, maybe, but
sure,
not Luka.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If you're Derek Jones Jr., if you're Kyrie, if you're Luka with 2 fouls, fine.
Yeah, for sure.
But 5 fouls, you can't do that. And I didn't like the whole, Jaylen Brown created the contact. Okay, from the dude who creates the most contact in the league. Like, that's not of course, the offensive player went looking for contact in the open floor. Like, happens every single game. And if anybody should know, because of the way he plays, it's not a criticism. He plays very smart offensive basketball. That's there. I think for Dallas, you need to do one of 2 things. It either needs to be, first needs to be, do we just need you to play more? Like, no, not all this constant, steady conversation with the referees. That needs to be one, but I know they've already had that conversation. Who knows where that goes? I think roster construction wise, you need to have a real conversation that says, are we going to continue to build lineups with Luka in them that basically dictate Luka plays in the backcourt or on the wing? And if you are, you're probably not going to get there. We have to hit a point where some of it is lack of effort on defense, but some of it is he's just not fast. He's not quick like that. He's probably
Yeah.
never going to be that guy. What he is extremely strong and extremely smart. So my approach this summer would be we're going to get Josh Green in there. Josh Green's going to be more of a regular starter for us. I thought Josh Green has played well at various points in these playoffs. I thought he's shown he's completely unafraid in these finals. That's going to be really encouraged. And if not Josh Green, we're going to go figure something out. And we're going to move Luka into a forward spot defensively. Yes, at the highest levels, teams will find him. But
Sure.
you just can't make it easy like that. You have to surround him with defense and shooting. And I get it. Kyrie's going to be a big part of that, and he should be. And
Yeah.
Kyrie has honestly shown up defensively more than I thought he would most of this season, including throughout the playoffs and the finals. His biggest problem is he's just a little small, but he's not the first small guard in the world. You can figure that stuff out. But Luka should be solely defending opposing fours at this point. He shouldn't be defending wings and guards. He can't do it. He's not going to be able to do it. So put him on fours. Now I get it with Boston. That's a mess because their four is Tatum
Right.
or Brown gets the ball, and that they're just built very differently. But that was a big part of why they succeeded against Minnesota. They could stash him on somebody. They stashed him on McDaniels and said, if we lose because McDaniels hits 5-7 3-pointers, whatever. If Josh Giddey hits a bunch of shots or Lou Dort hits a bunch of shots,
Sure.
so be it. Like, that's going to be how it is. There's no hiding points with the Celtics because everybody can shoot, pass, and dribble that they play, and that's just kind of where it is. But yeah, man, it's got to be better. It's got to be better from him. It's got to be better from the team and the personnel they put around him too.
Well, do you look at their starting five though and say this is they've got too many poor defenders around? I mean, it's PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, Derrick Jones Jr.
I think the
Like,
problem is,
aside from Kyrie, like who else do you put out there? You're putting Josh Green out there, but in place of who? Like, if you want to put him in place of Kyrie, okay, that's a better defensive unit. But
I think your problem is Lively, Washington, Jones Jr., they're not defending ball handlers 30 feet from the hoop.
Sure.
Because we've seen those guys get beat off the bounce too. Jones is the closest thing that they have to that. And I thought it got a little crazy with people who were like, he was snubbed for defensive or all defense team and all that. It's like, all right, he's a good defender, but it's like he looks like a great defender against compared to the guys he plays with. So I don't want to go too crazy with that. I think a lot of what they were successful was with scheme stuff. And you can do a lot of that. You can run smart schemes where it is, let's funnel guys to Lively, let's funnel guys to Gafford, let's make plays that way. So I think that is really important here. But yeah, I think you have to rethink your roster construction a little bit around Luka. If we're gonna commit to, all right, we're gonna clearly he's gonna start, he's gonna be a huge part of things, he's one of the best players in the world. But if he's not going to be a defender and not going to at least hold his own on the perimeter, we need to start putting him on bigs where we think he can hold up.
Yeah. It's probably going to be a shift needed from Dallas, and they'll make some tweaks and stuff over the summer. Meanwhile, it's done. Looks like the Celtics are going to win this thing, and I'm done watching basketball games because I'm not gonna watch the final one. But I'm moving ahead to the offseason, obviously. But this one's over with. I would kind of prefer let's just get it done so we can stop pretending that as soon as it's over, the floodgates are gonna open and we're gonna get a bunch of news that everybody's been sitting on, not wanting to go against the NBA and do anything against the finals. So I think that it's best just get it done. Let's move on and let's rip the Band-Aid off and let's start what should be a pretty fun offseason. I think that the floodgates are going to open and we're going to get all kinds of free agency and draft and all kinds of stuff that people haven't been able to put out just yet.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And obviously I'll add, I just want it to be over. So it's over. There's a weird amount of Celtics fans that are like, I wouldn't mind if they lost game 4 and they won it in front of the home fans. Okay.
I've seen that sentiment.
I mean, just win. And then you're going to have a parade anyway. Like, dude, it's fine. Like, you don't need to celebrate on the court. You celebrate in Dallas. I've already heard, like, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of Celtics fans in the building anyway. That tends to happen in a series when it's 3-0. And Boston, like the Lakers, as a marquee franchise, fans travel well. They're everywhere. So they will definitely show up. I'll say this too. Tomorrow, Friday, live
Yeah.
stream Front Office Friday. We need those super chats, guys, because I'm going to do some real damage to my bank account, buying T-shirts and hats and everything else. So please, fund my purchases.
Oh no! Now we're gonna get no super chats because it's mostly Lakers fans that are watching our show. Thanks a lot,
Well,
Keith.
hey, or you give them to insult the Celtics and me if you need to. That's fine too. I'll take all of those too.
I know you got to run real quick.
Yeah,
The Knicks feel like they're in a good place to sign OG Anunoby and Isaiah Hartenstein. I still think the Thunder are a real threat to sign Hartenstein, but we'll see. It could be he just feels like he's a good fit there and wants to stay. And maybe OKC doesn't want to, kind of like the Lakers with Hurley, doesn't want to like pay what it would take to drive him out of New York. We'll see what that situation looks like. And Nobi, I think, of course, winds up staying. Hartenstein will be the really interesting battle. And the Knicks feel like they're in a good situation. I think it's a good team for him to stick with. But the question's going to come down to the number.
Yeah, I think with Hartenstein, you just need to make sure you don't mess around. You're probably going to have to give him the max you can, which is 17 million, about 80 million total. Don't mess around because if you start trying to get cheap, that's where OKC's offer could look that much better, even if it's really not all that much more. Now, as you said, OKC could come in and completely blow them away and say, hey, we're going to do 25 million a year for the next 2 years. Well, there's not much the Knicks can do to match that. Really, there's nothing they can do to match that. So that would be hard. And with Anunoby, it's kind of the same situation. Just don't play around because we know Philly loves him, and Philly would love to have him if they could get him. And Philly, we know, would probably offer him a max. So again, you may not need to go all the way to the max, but probably going to be pretty close. Just again, whatever it is, if it's close, go the little extra. If it takes a little bit more, get your guys done and roll back in. And that's a good roster. Just with re-signing those two guys, you're in a really great place. If you're the Knicks and you're probably going into the season, we don't know what everybody else would do, but you're thinking, all right, we're a top 2, 3, 4 team at the bottom in the East. Like that's where you should be shooting for.
That's right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming in. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check out the Basketball Bulletin, basketballbulletin.substack.com. And until next time, see ya and stay safe.